Hello and welcome. This is Faceless Opinion, wearing the same outfit as my best friend. Welcome you back to another video. Have you ever heard anyone say there is no such thing as an original idea? The answer to that question is both yes and no, as you can have a movie, TV show, and book have very similar concepts but completely different executions. Take for example the movies Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down, both of which have a plot where some hostile force takes control of the White House and it is up to a government agent to save the president. This same phenomenon can also be seen in video games as well, like Call of Duty and Battlefield being the biggest examples of that, which can lead to a pseudo-rivalry being established. There have been other examples of this popping up a few times throughout gaming history, but the one that I would say got so much of this compare and contrast has to go to the games of Infamous and Prototype. When these two games came out, a lot of people would be talking about the comparison and would essentially link the two of them together, creating a pseudo-rivalry between the two fandoms that still exists to this day, so much so that Death Battle would end up having a matchup between the leading protagonists of those games many years later after those games weren't really relevant anymore. Now, as someone who's played both series, I think it would be interesting to see all of the similarities between Infamous and Prototype. Infamous was developed by Sucker Punch and came out in May of 2009, while Prototype would come out a month later in June, developed by Radical Entertainment. Both games involved the protagonists, Cole McGrath for Infamous and Alex Mercer for Prototype, being given superpowers. Cole having the power over electricity after the detonation of the Ray Sphere, and Alex having shape-shifting abilities after being exposed to the Blacklight virus. They both reside in New York City. Or more accurately, Prototype takes place in NYC, Manhattan to be more specific, while Infamous takes place in Empire City, which is a stand-in for New York City. Regardless of what you want to call it, both of these locations get put into quarantine and are locked down from the rest of the world due to the Blacklight virus and the radiation emitted from the Ray Sphere creating the plague, aka the Rayfield Plague. Both of whom have to deal with an old man that hates their existence that are in charge of a military force. For Alex, that is Peter Randall, the general of Blackwatch, while for Cole, that is Joseph Bertrand, the leader of the militia, who he mainly encounters in Infamous 2. As well as both of them being the kickstarters of the events of their game. Alex was the one to release the Blacklight virus, and Cole activated the Ray Sphere, leading to the development of their powers. Well, that covers all the things they have in common in regard to their stories, but let's go deeper than the surface level stuff, and see what else they have in common. Take for example their powers. Upon first look, they couldn't be any more different. However, they do have certain abilities that they share. Besides being able to throw cars around like they're baseballs, make helicopters come crashing down, or being able to glide, yada yada yada, both of them are able to absorb people to replenish their health. Cole does this by absorbing the neuroelectric energy from someone, while Alex does this by grabbing and beating down a person consuming their biomass. During said process, Alex is able to see the memories of the person he is consuming, where he's able to gain valuable insight and increase his overall skill set. Cole has something similar to that, which is called Psychic Vision, something I made a separate video on if you want to know more about it, though as a brief summary, it allows Cole to see the last moments of a person's life and can create an echo to track their killer. Now you may be wondering if Cole and Alex share any combat abilities. The answer to that is an astounding yes, they can. Both of whom can create shields to protect themselves from projectiles, with Alex being able to take it a step further and cover himself in armor. Cole can slowly replenish energy with every projectile that hits his shield. Both can generate whips. Alex has the Whip Fist, which can mow down crowds of people and one-shot helicopters. Cole has the Lightning Tether that allows him to be pulled up to a building or to a nearby object, though there's also the Lightning Hook as well, one of the many variants of the Shockwave, that has the inverse effect of the Tether. So instead of being moved somewhere, something, or should I say someone, is moved to you. However, the Lightning Hook is a DLC power. Let's not forget that both can create blades. Alex has his iconic blade, with his right arm turns into a scythe. Cole has Gigawatt blades, where both of his arms produce high amounts of energy and can instantly kill an enemy with one hit. These are also a DLC power, but they do end up becoming a canon ability as Cole has shown using them in the Infamous comic. Heck, both of them even have attacks that have the name Hammer in it. Hammer Fist for Alex, while Cole has the Megawatt Hammer, aka his rockets. Yes, I know they're completely different powers, but I just wanted to point out the name. I mentioned comics earlier, so let's talk about that. Both Infamous and Prototype have comics, 2 of them each. Prototype has a 6-issue comic run made by DC Wildstorm, which go into detail about Peter Randall, Specialist Cross, and Elizabeth Green, and some of the events before the game started. Infamous would have something similar called Infamous Post Blast, which was a graphic novel released on IGN.com that depicts the events of what happened to both Cole and John White after the Ray Sphere explosion. We would also have comics that would take place between each of their respective sequels. Prototype would release 3 books made by Dark Horse Comics called Prototype 2 The Anchor, Prototype 2 The Survivors, and Prototype 2 The Labyrinth, which would show Alex's journey after the first Prototype game and the events that would lead to him wanting to wipe out humanity, thus kickstarting the plot for Prototype 2. On the other hand, we would get the Infamous comic, which was a 6-issue miniseries made by DC Comics. I already made a video talking about it, you should check it out. To give a brief overview, it connects the events from both the first game to Infamous 2, showing us how Cole is dealing with the death of his girlfriend Trish, the fractured friendship he has with Zeke, and the revelation that he and Kessler were the same person. A lot more happened during said comic, where Cole has to fight David Warner, a mutated monster on top of an aircraft carrier, which sounds reminiscent of the final fight Alex had with the Supreme Hunter. Not to mention, now that I'm thinking about it, both of them had to fight twice, with the first fight in an abandoned building where they were assumed to have been killed, and the last being on an aircraft carrier. Also factor in that both Cole and Alex had to fight against the government. Cole had to deal with DARPA, or the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They were mentioned in the first game but had more of a presence during the Infamous comic. Alex had to deal with Blackwatch, who was a mainstay for both Prototype games. Both of those organizations would also engage in shady practices, since Blackwatch played a role in the creation of the Blacklight virus and DARPA funded the creation of the Ray Sphere. Also, they have to fight against someone who has the power to turn people into monsters, and said monsters pose a threat to the city. And Prototype, that is Elizabeth Green, while in Infamous, that role goes to Joseph Bertrand. Let's talk about sequels now, as both would end up having a sequel. Granted, Alex wasn't the main character of Prototype 2, but he did play a big part in the story, since he was the main antagonist. And just because he wasn't playable doesn't mean the parallels between him and Cole stop, since both of them would end up dying in their sequel game. Alex would be killed by new protagonist James Heller, while for Cole, he would end up sacrificing himself in the good ending. However, in the evil ending, Cole would end up becoming the Beast, and would start going around activating the conduit gene, and would essentially attempt to end humanity. Just like what Alex was trying to do in Prototype 2, but he did that with the Blacklight virus. However, later down the line, Infamous would end up getting another game taking place 7 years after the events of the good ending of Infamous 2, called Infamous Second Son, where you play as new protagonist named Delsin Rowe. However, the new characters of James Heller and Delsin Rowe would not be as well received unlike their predecessors, and ultimately no new games would be made after that point, which is a shame, as both game series deserved better. The number of similarities between both Infamous and Prototype is quite interesting, and surprising. I knew they had things in common, all the surface level things that everyone and their mother likes to mention, but while doing research for this video, I just kept finding more and more things to bring up. Like, did you know that both games share a voice actor together? Phil LaMarr is the man who voiced NSA agent John White in Infamous, and Dr. Bradley Raglan in Prototype, both of whom were allies of the main characters. Or how about how both series had a failed follow-up to the introduction of a plot thread that doesn't go anywhere? As in Prototype, you have Pariah, who was the son of Elizabeth Green, who was mentioned too close to the end of the game, where it is stated if Pariah and Mercer ever met, that it would be extraordinarily bad, as Dr. Raymond McCullen speculated that Pariah could be the one person to stop Alex Mercer. But when Prototype 2 came out, there was no mention of him in any capacity. As a matter of fact, they went in a completely different direction. Or in Infamous Second Son, while close to the end of the game, a line of dialogue stated that a very powerful bioterrorist has gone missing, which many hinted to a sequel that never ended up happening. So the comparisons don't end. Now tell me, what do you think? Did you expect Infamous and Prototype to have this much in common? Was there anything that you think I missed? Do you wish that both of these games had another sequel? Are you an Infamous fan or a Prototype fan? Tell me in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. And until next time, I will catch you all on the flip side.